So ISO, this is again another topic. I had discussed a little bit about this topic in the earlier lecture, if you remember. What is ISO? So we are discussing about various environmental clearances, various environmental licenses, etc., which are required. Like this module, there is a third module. It started with sustainability and role of business. If you remember, we saw the meaning of sustainability, the importance and all. Then environmental clearance for establishing and operating industries in India. Under this, we have already covered about environmental impact analysis or EIA, then environmental auditing. Another one is ISO 14001. So a little bit I had started about this particular topic. ISO, always remember the full form of ISO is International Organization for Standardization. It is ISO, but it is read as International Organization for Standardization. It is an international body which is having representatives from various countries on various standards for organizations. What they do? They provide guidance on good management practices for various industries, for different types of industries. And it is headquartered at a place known as Geneva in Switzerland. Now, our topic here is about ISO 14000. I told you ISO is having so many different, it is a family of standards. In there are ISO, it starts with ISO 9000, ISO 9001, 14000, 14001, 11, 12, like that. So many are there. Our focus is mainly on, primarily on ISO 14000 because this is dealing with the rules and regulations with respect to environmental management. So you can see over here, ISO published this set of standard for environmental management. This is designed in order to cover the whole area of environmental issues for organizations in the entire world, in the global level. So it is a family of standards. It is called as a family of standards because it is consisting of 14001, 12, 11, like that. So many are there. So it is a family of standards which is related to environmental management that exist to help companies or to help organizations to minimize how their operations negatively affect the environment, how they can comply. Comply means how they can follow the rules, applicable laws, regulations, and other environmentally oriented requirements, and how they can continually improve in this particular area. So this is actually emerged as a result of an agreement after various negotiations, discussions, and all. And this ISO 14000 was created. It is covering environmental management system, environmental auditing, performance evaluation, labeling, life cycle assessment, and even environmental aspects with respect to product standard. Like when a company is starting to make a product and till the life of the product is being completed or it is being ending, what all environmental factors will be there which are getting affected because of this particular product? What are the different laws and regulations which the company is supposed to be following when they are entering into this particular business? All these guidelines are given under ISO 14000. So it is not restricted to any type of organization. In fact, ISO 14000, this standard, it applies to all types of organizations and are designed to cover various areas. Like as I told you, it is covering the environmental policies, the plans, the actions, etc., which the company should be taking, and it also will be covering the rules and regulations, the legislations, and all which the company should take. So one thing you have to remember is that it is voluntary. Having an ISO registration for a company, having an ISO 14000 registration for a company is not at all mandatory. Means it is not compulsory. It is voluntary for the organizations. But meeting the requirements of ISO 14000 shows that the organization is considering the environmental activities as well. Like we can say that having an effective EMS means, I told you it is not compulsory. It is voluntary upon to the company whether they have to go for the certification or not. But if they are moving for this, if they are going for this effective EMS system or ISO 14000 certification, it shows that the company is working in a better way towards environment. There will be a reduction in the environmental incidents, improved reputation for the company. There will be marketing advantage. Their tenders and all will be well quoted over here. there will be an improvement in the regulatory performance, and therefore there will be lower risk of charging fines for not following the environmental rules and regulations. There will be focused, knowledgeable, motivated workforce, reduction in waste, including raw materials, utility waste. Even we can say that there will be a reduction in the waste disposal cost. Then we can attract more and more customers, investors, and shareholders, because we will be able to earn a goodwill in the market, increase profit from lower cost. So it is again not at all compulsory. It is just a management tool, or we can say, yes, management tool, which is enabling an organization of any size or any type to show that their activities are not affecting the environment negatively. So like we can say that there will be rules and regulations with respect to waste management, rules and regulations with respect to wastewater discharges, then sanitary areas. All these things will be covered under here, so that by having this system, the company can showcase that they are treating the environment in a positive way. So it is a kind of assurance that we are doing the work in a proper way. That is EMS, or environmental management system. Now, next topic which you have to learn here is important act, law, etc. in India with respect to environmental protection. There are different acts. It is all very vast. Okay, you might have already learned in business law and all. Different acts will be there. It is not simple. It's not easy to learn each and every act in detail, and many of the acts will be updated or modified to add more contents in that. Here, what you have to remember is, very importantly, in like when we go through the previous year's question papers and all, the questions are not there with respect to explain about any of these acts, but questions are there with respect to the years when it was enacted. Like for example, Water Act was enacted in 1974. You have to remember the year. You have to remember. कौन से साल वो हो गया है? I mean, which year it was enacted, that you should remember. Air Act was in 1981. Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Wildlife Act of 1972. So we don't have to go into much detail over here. You can see the first one, Water Act of 1974. Remember the year. Water Act means you should remember 1974. It is aimed, or it is created to prevent and control water pollution. Pollution control boards were created. They are responsible for implementing the provisions. In this, you will get in a nutshell. Whatever I'm explaining is just a small introduction about Water Act, because you don't have to go into detail over here. One of the important provision of Water Act of 1974 is to maintain and restore the wholesomeness of our aquatic resources. Aquatic resources means our resources which are available in the water bodies, which are equally valuable in the earth. So it is also to be protected. So under Water Act of 1974, sewage or pollutants cannot be discharged into water bodies, including lakes. It is the duty of the State Pollution Control Board to intervene or interfere and stop such activity. And anyone failing to abide by those rules are likely for imprisonment under section 24 and 43 as per this law, which may have punishment for imprisonment for not less than 1 year and 6 months up to 6 years, along with monetary fines as well. So Water Act is enacted, or it has been implemented in the country to control or prevent and control water pollution. Remember the year. Same way, Air Act of 1981. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981 is an act of the Parliament of India to control and prevent air pollution in India. This was the first attempt taken by government to combat. Combat means to fight against air pollution. So here also, just like Central Board of Prevention of Water Pollution, they are only entrusted with the same activity of preventing and controlling air quality, or preventing and controlling of air pollution. And what they do, they lay down the standards for air quality. You might have read in the news and all. It's very importantly, when we take the example of Delhi and all. Delhi is always in news when it comes to air quality, for lower air quality or poor air quality and all. So all these standards are given or laid under this particular act. Then here also penalties or fines are there for violation. It may include, here you can see, punishments or even fine up to 10,000 or even both the punishments. So Water Act 1974, Air Act 1981. Air Act, which is also governed by the Central Board for Prevention of Water Pollution. Then comes Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Another one. Environment Protection Act of 1986. It's again another act of Parliament of India. Here, in the wake of Bhopal gas tragedy or Bhopal disaster, I'll tell you what is this Bhopal gas tragedy. The government of India enacted this Environment Protection Act of 1986 under Article 253 of the Constitution. The purpose of this act is to implement the decisions of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. They relate to the protection and improvement of human environment and prevention of hazards to human beings or other living creatures, plants, and property. This is an umbrella legislation. Umbrella legislation means which is covering everything, which is covering all the aspects. So this act is an umbrella legislation which is designed to provide a framework for central government coordination of various activities. And it is all controlling and coordinating along with Water Act and Air Act. Water Act of 1974, Air Act of 1981, Environment Protection Act of 1986. Then there is Wildlife Act of 1972. This is again another act of Parliament for the protection of plants and animal species. Among other reforms, the act established schedules of protected plant and animal species. Hunting or harvesting these species were largely outlawed. So this law is not for the people, human beings, it is for the protection of wildlife, animals and birds, and any other matters which are connected with them. And it is extending to the whole of India. So these four different acts here you have to remember and what it is related to. Water Act 1974, Air Act of 1981, Environment Protection Act of 1986, Wildlife Act of 1972. Now, I just told you when it came to this Environment Protection Act, it was enacted like in connection with the Bhopal gas tragedy. Now, what is this Bhopal gas tragedy? I'll just show you what is this Bhopal gas tragedy. Just a second. I think the screen is visible. Here you can see Bhopal gas tragedy. It was an accident. It was an industrial accident. Okay. It was a gas leak accident which happened on the intervening night of 2nd and 3rd December 1984, almost 35 years before. And it happened in Bhopal, which is the capital of Madhya Pradesh. It happened in the company known as Union Carbide Limited, Union Carbide India Limited, which was a pesticide plant. This is considered as one of the world's most worst industrial disaster. What happened was that during that intervening night of 2nd and 3rd December 1984, there was a gas leakage in that factory. And methyl isocyanate, you can see over here, MIC, methyl isocyanate, that was the gas, it was leaked. Around 5 lakh people were exposed. The statistics show that this many people, but maybe the numbers could be more. And highly toxic substance was spread over the area. Death toll was very high. It was not only about the death toll. Apart from that, the cause of the disaster and all, there were so many conflicts, there were so many arguments and all. People started against the company. So many such issues were there. But the thing is, this tragedy created a huge impact on the people over there. The children which were born after that, they were also either, we can say, physically handicapped or mentally challenged. So many difficulties were there for the people due to this disaster. So on the wake of this disaster, I'll just show you just a second. On the wake of this disaster, we can say that this particular law, Environmental Protection Act, was, we can say it is almost related to this. Some images I will show you which explains about the harsh tragedy. You can see it was on the intervening night of 2nd and 3rd December. People, you can see the kind of people. It is still there in the sense people are still bearing the brunt of this particular tragedy. You can see. And we know once such tragedy and all, once it's happening, the people are getting affected and they definitely get some kind of compensation and all. And after that, it is the people, ultimately the people who were victimized, they are only continuing to be affected over here. So this one, Environment Protection Act of 1986, it was related to this particular incident, or because of that, government has actually enacted this uh, particular law seriously, we can say. Now, that is in the wake of Bhopal gas tragedy or the Bhopal gas disaster, this particular uh, act of parliament was enacted. Then, so these four laws you have to remember. Okay, years you have to remember: Water Act of 1974, Air Act of 1981, Environment Protection Act of 1986, and Wildlife Act of 1972. Now, moving ahead, one small topic is there. I'm not going again here. Also, we don't have to go into much detail over here. This is something which people are all very much aware, which is something which we see every time. Briefly, we will see what are these things. Different environmental movements in India. Now, some of the students have already presented on some of these topics actually. Like during the past many years, we can see that people in various regions of country have initiated so many movements, like especially so many non-violent movements, which like we can see started from even from the Himalayas to the southern part of the country, and like it was spread throughout the country. This was in response to various industrial projects and all, which was affecting the common people, where the people had to get dislocated from their area, and they had to move to some other places. They had to fight for their basic human rights. They had to save, and they had to support the land, water, ecological systems, etc. So there are so many, some of the important ones have been named over here. Chipko Andolan, Save the Silent Valley Movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan, Tehri Dam Campaign, opposition to Dahanu Thermal Power Plant. Then you can see Koel Caro Struggle, Save Western Ghats, Save Jetapur. These are some of the prominent ones, which are, even now it is there, even now many are there in different parts of the country, it is happening. But we have taken only the most famous ones over here. Chipko Andolan, it was, Chipko means hugging the trees. Hugging the trees, it is one of the most, or we can say well-known environmental movement, which was at the grassroots level. Grassroots level means जो सबसे ग्रामों में से, मतलब जैसे कि villages से जो start हुए थे. Where what happened here is that people, when they were, I'm just saying brief of everything, okay? It was in UP, we can say, and the people, the hunters were coming. They wanted to, the poachers were there. They wanted to cut the trees, and they, villagers over there, especially women, they came forward and they started hugging the trees, not allowing anybody to cut the trees. And this is under the leadership of women, they did this. And along with that, there was Sundarlal Bahuguna, who was also prominently guiding the people over there. Similarly, there is Save the Silent Valley. Silent Valley is the name of a place. It is in Kerala. It is the name of a place. It is known as Silent Valley because that particular area is very much silent. It is a forest type of area only, but it is very silent, except for some very rare species which is found over there. So here they were planning to construct a hydroelectric power project. Hydroelectric power project, which is helping to generate electricity. Now, major concern here was that if this was set up, the major areas of the forest would be submerged, means would be underwater, and it will even endanger the very rare species which are found there. In that forest, there is a very rare species which is known as lion-tailed macaco monkey. It means it is almost a very rare type of monkey which is found over there. So later on, they conducted a study, ecological impact study, and then this area was then declared as a biosphere reserve. And this movement was initiated by so many people, so many environmentalists in the state. Then this is one unique example which shows that how people can come together and fight to protect the environment. Same way, there is Narmada Bachao Andolan, that is from with the initiation, with the leadership under Medha Patkar and all. That is how this is again a non-governmental organization which has mobilized the people, especially the tribal people and all. They brought all these people together against the dam being constructed. That is Sardar Sarovar Dam, which was being constructed in Gujarat. This project was actually financed by the World Bank, and some years before I had read an article which said that these people, that is Narmada Bachao Andolan, these activists were pressurizing, they were so much in the media. This forced the World Bank to withdraw its financial support from here. And the Prabhat project is almost under completion now. This particular dam, it is constructed or it will be spread over Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra. And the people over there will be dislocated. So against this thing also, protests were happening. And Narmeda Patkar, then Arundhati Roy, like that, so many very famous activists were part of this movement. Then there is Terry Dam campaign. This is in Himalayas, Gadwal areas of Himalayas. There also, it is again another anti-dam campaign. Anti-dam campaign. This is again, this would have been, if it was when completed, it would have been one of the highest dam. Here, the thing is, the dam is situated, or this project is situated in a seismically volatile, means earthquake prone area. And they wanted this project to be completed, and they said that the earthquakes will not be affecting it. But several environmentalists came forward to fight against the project. Then the Dahanu thermal power plant. Dahanu is in Maharashtra itself. Here also there was issue. Then there is Koel Karo. Koel Karo is in Jharkhand. Then there is Save Western Ghats. Save Western Ghats means Western Ghats is actually home to various species. It is the mountain range you might have heard about. Mountain range covering various areas. It is covering Gujarat, Maharashtra, then Goa, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and all. Till the southern tip it is ranging. And this particular area is actually a very highly sensitive area which is home to various species of plants and animals. And that is also another campaign. Then there is Save Jaitapur campaign. Jaitapur is again a place in Maharashtra. I think all of you might be knowing about it. Here, with the help of, like we can say, Government of India, they were planning to set up, it's almost complete, I think. They were planning to set up a nuclear power plant with the help of a French company, and NPCL. NPCL means Nuclear Power Corporation of India. They were planning to set up nuclear reactors over here. Now, nuclear reactors, it is quite, people are quite against for setting up such nuclear reactors, because any kind of accidents will affect the life of lots of people. So this was highly questioned, and this is again set up in a place where it is a earthquake prone area. It is in the Western Ghats, and it is considered as Western Ghats, as we have already seen, it is considered as one of the world's best biodiversity area, and it is home to thousands of species of plants and animals and all. And this project will put entire system at a considerable risk. So there has been fierce opposition to these projects also. These are some of the projects only which I have mentioned over here. Like that, many more environmental movements and campaigns are there, which is supported by or resisted, or we can say conducted by the support of the local people. Because when anything of this is getting implemented, the local people will be getting affected. So this is about various environmental movements in the India. So here once again it has been explained about Bhopal gas tragedy, 2nd and 3rd December, and death tolls may vary. Many times we can see that the statistics might be varying, the numbers will be varying, and again still there were lots of argument with respect to the how this leakage has happened. They did not have proper waste management system, and so many such issues were there. But the people, as I told you, are the real victims who are still suffering. The children who are born, they are born prematurely, or they are handicapped physically or mentally challenged, and so many such issues are there. Then criminal cases and all were filed. Those things were all happening parallelly. You can see this in pictures over here, some of the pictures. Okay. Now moving to one last topic. With these two topics, we will be ending this particular module. First one is Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto is the name of a place in Japan. Okay. Kyoto Protocol is an international treaty. Treaty means agreement, which is connected or which is extending the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change that commits state parties, means whoever are participating in this, to reduce the greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, all those harmful gases in the atmosphere. So they will be trying to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions based on scientific consensus, and global warming is occurring. It is extremely like that. Human-made carbon dioxide emissions have predominantly caused global warming. It was adopted in Kyoto, a place in Japan, on 11 December 1997 and entered into force on 16 Feb 2005. There are so many countries. Canada withdrew or they left from the protocol. Otherwise, there are so many countries who are part of this agreement. Now, why this is done? Why they had entered into this type of agreement? Now, this type of agreement shows that the countries world over are coming together to fight against global warming and other different types of environmental pollution or other kinds. Like this is, we can say, a comprehensive treaty which explains about how we can reduce the carbon dioxide emissions and how we can try to avoid human-induced climate change. Human-induced means human-caused climate change. So remember the name of that protocol, Kyoto Protocol in Japan. Then one last topic here is about carbon credit. Here you can see in detail about protocol. Here it is, what people are saying is that we should try to, the countries are coming forward to reduce current emissions on developed countries, like because they are feeling that developed countries are also responsible for this carbon emissions. So countries together should come forward for reducing this greenhouse gas emissions. Then last topic here is about carbon credit. Carbon credit is a term for any tradable certificate or permit representing the right to emit 1 ton of carbon dioxide or equivalent amount of a different greenhouse gas. This is a kind of, we can say, tradable certificate, carbon credit, which will measure 1 ton of carbon dioxide. So it means carbon credits, carbon credits and carbon markets are a component of national and international attempts. It is happening throughout the world to mitigate, to reduce the growth in concentration of greenhouse gases. 1 carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide, or it may vary also in some places. So what is done over here? Carbon trading is done, which shows that more they are generating, more they are emitting carbon, that will show that the greenhouse gas contribution by that particular country is more. So greenhouse gas emissions can be stopped, and then markets are used to allocate the emissions among the group of regulated resources. You don't have to go much detail into it. Just a small paragraph is mentioned about carbon credit. It just helps us to understand many initiatives are taken world over to protect the environment. Here what happens is that, as I told you, 1 carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide. That part you have to remember. 1 carbon credit is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide, and it is tradable in the market. It is tradable in the market, like we can say that it will create a market for trading this kind of certificates or trade certificates or trade permit and all. Like we can say, for example, I'll give you one example and it will be more clear for you. If it can be applicable for companies, countries and all, if one environmental group is planting the trees as per 1 ton to reduce the emissions by 1 ton, they will be getting 1 carbon credit. Same way, if a steel production unit or take any company, they have an emission quota of 10 ton, but they are expecting to produce like 11 ton, they can buy this 1 carbon credit from another company. Like that interaction, or like that such type of trading business for carbon credit gradually will help to understand how this greenhouse gases are contributing to the air pollution and how they are affecting the environment.